On this episode of the show, I have with me Anisha Thomas. She is head of people at Inscribe, and we're going to be talking about balancing operational and strategic roles. Going to dive in and examine how you have to handle some of those shifting priorities and the lens that you're looking through things, and seeing the trees through the forest is sometimes not the easiest thing. We're going to be talking about time and resource and how do you budget those correctly, and connecting the dots across the life cycle. And hopefully at the end, we're going to talk about the future of people, small teams. Anisha, thanks for joining the show.
Happy to be here. I'm excited.
Absolutely. All right. I love this topic because I think there's a lot of different, probably takeaways from balancing operational and strategic roles. I guess let's just start at the top because I think sometimes it helps people get a little context. As the head of people within Inscribe, what is the makeup of your team there?
Yep. So I'm a team of one. And so hence the head of people. It's a vague title, right? You can have a team. You can be just the lead and functional owner. But just for context, I was actually the first people hire when I first joined Inscribe about 4 years ago. And I built out the people foundations, recruiting foundations. And then I did actually end up growing my team where I had recruiters and a people ops manager. But then, of course, given the world and downsizing and reorgs, I am now back to being a team of one.
So common story, not something that is isolated to you. I think a lot of people are seeing that, and I think that's actually great because I think the podcast, talking about balancing operational and strategic roles, being a team of one, you see that very clearly. I'm sure there's various different aspects you'd love to hand off, but you've got to do it all yourself. It probably makes you a better leader for it because you're seeing it from the ground up. So I guess talk to us a little bit about your day. How much operational work versus strategic work, and maybe if it's not a day on a given week, like how does that break out for you in terms of time spent?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I actually should probably spend a little bit more time actually seeing what I'm doing, but it's all over the place sometimes. I mean, one day it'll be a ton of candidate calls, or one day it'll be a bunch of one-on-ones with leaders and having conversations of their own growth or how they're also thinking about growing their team. And then there's a ton of heads down time also to kind of like actually get the work done, whether that's recruiting or that's running a performance review cycle. So I'm flexing everywhere and anywhere that you can think of in terms of the employee life cycle. But I think my favorite part, to be honest, is actually being that strategic advisor for the leadership team. I actually think that's where I'm having the most impact, and get to be able to kind of be that more strategic leader and build trust. Because once I have that trust, the operations side of things is quite easy. I shouldn't say that I can do it with my eyes closed, but in the sense that I've got it down.
Absolutely. Now, that makes sense. And I guess the question that comes to mind is, when you do switch from operational to strategic and back and forth, there is a context switching tax involved. I mean, it seems to me when I switch from doing about a podcast recording and I want to get back to work, I need a little bit of time to get my head back into details because it's a different part of the brain you're using doing different aspects of what we're talking about. How do you manage that context switching and to kind of minimize quote unquote time wasting when you are switching tasks?
Yeah, it comes down to priorities and really understanding what the priorities are. And aligning on that, whether that's, sure, I have my kind of monthly priorities or what I believe will accomplish in the year, but I also do it on a daily basis. And right now for us, we have 4 open roles that we're hiring for, and that is a main priority I need to accomplish. Versus last quarter, it was running a global offsite. And so just acknowledging what I need, that I can't do it all. Sure that there kind of running the entire employee life cycle, there's competing priorities and context shifting happening where there are emergencies and people initiatives and people problems that end up coming up throughout the day. But just overall kind of having a North Star for the day and the week and the month and quarter are really important.
Absolutely. I guess, you were the first people talent hire a couple of years ago. You built out a bit of a team. You're back doing some more IC work now. I guess if you were to kind of look back and kind of put yourself back in the shoes where you were 4 years ago, and then obviously you brought on people back down. As you scale back up, eventually we'll scale back up, and we'll talk about maybe how many people we'll scale back up with. But you will add people to the team. Do you think does your management views of management, your views of leadership change because you've had to kind of go back and roll up the sleeves and be hands-on again?
Definitely. Actually, when I first was hiring for my team, I was skeptical because I'm someone who kind of likes to own everything. I know my own standards. I know my own kind of workflows and where my strengths are. And so managing is not easy. I think everyone thinks that's the right next step in their career or how to grow their career. But it's hard having to be there for another team member, advocating for that team member. They have their own kind of things and challenges that you need to be there and support and advocate for and empower. And so I was nervous actually kind of taking that leap because with myself, I know, okay, I'm just going to get this done. I'm pretty independent. I can figure it out, but having to also have someone else to kind of check in on without overstepping and becoming micromanagement, I was definitely nervous about that. How much can I actually delegate and successfully do that? But I love it. I actually love supporting other team members. Like as much as I support my leadership team, I support my team. I'm very much hands off. I trust by just getting the work done. And I'm there to be, just their support and advocate when they need me. And I think the advice is just like hire great people or even hire people better than yourself. And then that actually makes management a lot easier. But going back to a team of one was not hard because I've been in the weeds. I've also been in the cloud. So I know how to flex that. So it wasn't hard for me to kind of go back. Of course, there's elements of the role where I'm like, payroll's not fun to run all the time. Or there's some tasks involved where I'm like, okay, this is a bit more draining, but I also make sure that I am doing work that I love to balance it out so I don't burn out. And for the future, how I kind of think about building my team again, it'll really be where my strengths aren't, I'll say. I think I was hiring just for more general coverage and kind of copying and pasting me. But I actually think if we're going to stay lean and I get only one hire, it's someone who probably can complement my skill set.
Interesting. I like that. That's great to reflect and kind of understand the shift from just bringing in more hands to help versus in it being a bit more strategic in that hiring lens. And to kind of go back to, you do various things. You mentioned, organize a company, event activity. There's 4 roles now. And obviously you enjoy the strategic piece. When you are in the midst of it and you're just like any employee that you'd have on your team, you're still there executing those dots and how they connect across the entire life cycle. How do you account for that? And by that, I mean, do you take notes or do you remember, hey, this is something in the process that we could improve as you're doing the work too? Because obviously a team of one, you need to still onboard and improve those things. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I really am in a fortunate position to be able to connect the dots across the business. And I think that's how I build trust with the leadership team and being one of their go-to people, because I'm hearing things from EPD, I'm hearing from go-to-market, and I can be like, okay, here's a communication challenge. Why don't you just get in a meeting and chat with each other? So for example, our engineering team wants to roll out a team celebration budget, right? A quarterly budget for teams to get together and celebrate. And how I connect the dots then is like, okay, well, what can we do on go-to-market side of things too? How can we make this equitable? And rather than it being like company-wide initiative, how can we still have each of the org leaders own this and drive this? But I'm still trying to make sure we're a small team. If this is rolled out, what's the impact going to be for the go-to-market team members? If they're like, hey, what about us? Are we going to have any team celebrations? And so raising that with the go-to-market leaders and saying, hey, like, why don't we get a budget together for go-to-market if that's something that you want to do too, because this is what engineering is looking into. And so that's a fortunate position I am in. I think it's easy to kind of, for each leader to look at their own functions and kind of be heads down on that. But for me, it's, okay, what's the impact on every single team member at Inscribe? So
that's really cool. No, that's fantastic. And, you know, I think when we're talking, and you mentioned, obviously, if you can add people, it'd be a complementary skill set. And I think we were talking about, you know, obviously the future of people in the sense of, you know, whether teams, as they're bringing on AI, will they grow or not grow? But before we get there, I guess, you know, are you yourself leveraging any additional tooling to, you know, bring you some efficiencies? Obviously, you know, you don't have to have them still. I think we're still in a case where people can still do what they've been doing, but also see a lot of tools out there. I mean, where are you with adding tools or bringing in some of those AI tools to help you?
Yeah, definitely important for me and the entire Inscribe team to be AI enabled. I mean, we're building AI agents for risk teams. And so I don't want there to be a disconnect with what we're selling and building and how we operate internally. And so, yes, I'm, you know, before starting with, hey, can I get budget for XYZ agent, let's just say, or new software, or AI solutions, I'm starting with what's my current tech stack and what's been released there. For example, Ashby has a ton of AI features now to help with automating scheduling, for example. Lattice as well, from a people platform standpoint, has a lot of functionality and solutions there. So a lot of kind of that admin level work that I don't love to do is getting streamlined with the help of AI. And then, of course, ChatGPT has become my teammate, I like to say. I am in there 24/7, just being like, hey, can you take a look at these comms? Or what do you think about this kind of initiative? As much as I love talking to my founder and co-founders about some people initiatives, for them, it's like, okay, cool. But, you know, I think sometimes having other resources are important for me to kind of get my work done.
You know, you've kind of walked us through, you know, different aspects of your day, balancing your day, kind of even some of the learnings of, you know, if you were to hire somebody else. And I guess when we're talking about that hiring, you'd mentioned to me your vision of kind of the future of people teams is that they would be staying small and lean. I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I really do think teams will be remaining small for the foreseeable future, just given what AI is capable of doing and technology out there. And so I think what I need to kind of think about if I do grow my team again is just what use cases AI is great for, and where do we still need team members. And so I was always hiring for typical capacity and, oh, we have X amount of roles and we need a recruiter to fill this amount of roles, or for every 50 employees, we need a people ops manager. And so I'm going to kind of think about it differently now, and a lot more of where can AI play a role, and then also who can complement my skills. What are, I have my strengths, but I also do, I like to say I have it all and can do it all, but I also do have weaknesses. And so looking for team members who can really complement me. And so I think that's kind of how I'm going to think about rebuilding my team in the near future, but also really relying right now as a team of one on my current tech stack and the AI solutions available.
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe a question that kind of piggybacks off that. And I've kind of observed that within the people talent space, you do get a lot of hiring, you get a lot of overhiring, and we get a lot of rifts, and you see the layoffs, and that seems to be a very cyclical thing. And long question, sorry, but part of what I'm seeing is that a lot of people come in and out of the people talent space, view it as a job, they got hired for something, they leave. Is there maybe a footing within the fact that if the team stays small, the tools are there, that we won't need to hire and fire in that kind of that pendulum swing as often, and maybe it becomes more of a longer standing career thing? Because I think you've made it a career, right? Obviously, I've made it a career, but not everyone views it that way. I mean, is that something? I guess I'm not going to hold you to this, but I am kind of curious your thoughts of whether that brings some of that qualities to the field.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I chose this path. A lot of people kind of fall into recruiting initially, come from different backgrounds. I somehow surprisingly was like, I'm going to choose HR and recruiting as my career. But yeah, in terms of hiring, I think moving forward, I think all businesses are going to be very intentional about hiring. And something that we're doing at Inscribe is, rather than having a yearly headcount plan, given how it's just, that doesn't work anymore in the world that we are in. We're tying hires to milestones and triggers when it comes to our revenue, and understanding that a lot more, and tying our headcount plan to business triggers, rather than just saying, okay, this is the product update that we're going to have, and we're going to need XYZ person to fill it. So the way we're going about headcount planning is very, very different.
I like that. Sorry,
and so, oh yeah, and no, I was just going to say, and for talent, that means, and people looking to be within recruiting and HR, I really do think that we just need to embrace this kind of new wave. And I do think people are going to remain in these fields for a while. We're so still human, there's so much human aspect to it, that AI is not going to solve everything. And so I think my biggest advice, though, is just, if you are a leader, regardless of size, stage of company, always being in the weeds and being an operator to some sort of level is going to be important. I think that's going to be a skill set that's going to be highly valued still.
I love that. I 100% agree with you. I do think, I've asked the question of what's going to happen with this excess time. We have all this time that people say we're going to bring all these tools, and I agree with you, there's a human aspect. And I also go, the strategic side. I mean, you said you excel at it. You do very well at it. You obviously have a bandwidth limitation. Even if a team of one, there were tools where you had an extra 20% of your day, I'm sure there's plenty of conversations forward looking that could be had with your team and managers, and looking at different forward thinking policies and benefits and all those things that you'd be free to do. So I kind of think we're going to get a lot more time back to do some more meaningful work versus some of the lower level tasks that are okay if they go away. I'm okay if I don't ever have to source another person and they materialize in whatever tool it is. That make me really happy. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. Sourcing and outbounding is not my favorite thing to do, but the candidate, we're actually talking to candidates about our team dynamics and culture. Like that's where I want to spend my time, making sure, is this going to actually be a long-term fit for us, versus, hey, pull, 20 profiles and send messages.
Absolutely. I think that storytelling, I think we're going to fuse. I've always, when I hire for my company, I tell everyone, you're joining a marketing company, and they're all confused. Why do you call it a marketing company, Amir? You're a recruiting company. I go, I get it, but we actually are marketers. Even though we might not be able to use the brand sometimes, okay, or as an RPO, you can use the brand sometimes. We're storytelling, we're marketing, we're building top of funnel. And I think that's where hopefully we see some of that marketing rub off on us when we have time to do it. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a game changer. Yep,
definitely.
Okay.
And yeah.
No. Sorry.
I was going to say, so much we can talk about what the future is going to end up looking like.
There you go. Well, I mean, maybe we'll have you back on in a year and change and see what tools you've adopted and see if you've added to the team and how all that stuff has gone. Hopefully, fingers crossed, all that does go well with you. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for taking the time. If somebody does want to reach out to you to pick your brain on something you mentioned, what's a good way of connecting with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn would be best. My name's Anisha Thomas, so should hopefully be able to find me there at Inscribe, and so that's probably the best place to send me messages and connect with me.
Okay, I really do appreciate it, Anisha. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for this episode. Be back again, different guest, different topic. Until then, 2 things. So Anisha did a great job, honestly, of walking us through, as a team of 1 right now, of balancing her day of operational, strategic components. She did have a team, did get downsized, but she's still doing all those different tasks herself, and she's going to apply those learnings back when she has to hire. And it sounds like she has a much better view. And sometimes rolling up your sleeves really does benefit. And we talked about the future of people in small teams. And I think she's right. I think we'll see smaller teams and we'll see more efficient teams and leaner teams. And share this with somebody else who might benefit. I think it would be great and fantastic if you did. Also, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how the show's going for you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.